Hey, welcome back to my Permanently Filipino playlist, where basically I'm sharing the decisions and the experiences my husband and I have made as we transition from the United States to the Philippines. So before coming here, my husband and I always considered ourselves dinks, dual income, no kids. And during the pandemic, we decided to retire in the Philippines. So after 30 years of teaching, we were able to retire at a young age and saved up enough money. My husband is 5.5 years younger than me, saved up enough money so when I retired after 30 years of teaching, he could retire with me. And during the pandemic, we decided the Philippines was going to be our new home. So when we boarded the flight in the United States, we weren't coming to the Philippines to vacation. We were coming to the Philippines to move and work on becoming permanent residents. So that's what this whole playlist is focusing on. Everything that we have done, things that we think about, but maybe haven't done, not sure if we're going to do, as we live in the Philippines. Now, one of the things before coming here, you have to pack. And I will say, packing more money and less clothes would be a really good tip. You can buy more clothes. But packing things that will bring you joy and make you feel comfortable in a new environment, especially during moments where things feel frustrating or confusing. And when you start doubting, is this the best decision? It's important to have those things that will bring you comfort. And as crazy as it might sound, for me, I crochet. And that helps relieve some stress whenever I do feel stressed. And it was worth having that extra weight. It was worth having space in my luggage to be just a few balls of yarn and a crochet hook and whatever else that I needed to be able to make something. It relieved a lot of stress for me personally. So packing something that's going to bring you joy, super, super important. The other thing, even if you decide not to do that, there are 3 things that I think are far more important if all you're carrying is a backpack and they take up no space and no weight, is coming with a lot of patience, coming in with an open mind, and a positive attitude. If you have those 3 things, you basically can combat any scenario that you encounter while transitioning to a new country. We just happen to choose the Philippines because there's so many things that we have encountered that we're not used to, and didn't and still doesn't make sense to us because we were so entrenched in what we lived in while in the United States, having the assumption that it's going to be similar is unfair, and also something that maybe you need to reconsider making the move. So I'm just going to say that if you're going to assume everything that you've been used to, for me, 57 years of my life, then maybe moving isn't the best decision. Maybe just vacation would be the best decision for you. So before I move on talking about our first 6 months, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So our first 6 months, as I mentioned in our last video, we chose a hotel because security, safety, breakfast buffet, it's like Vegas, so good. We had somebody who would take care of the room if we wanted. Sorry. I would love a pool. However, it didn't have a pool. It had a beautiful sky deck. We stayed at the Bayleaf Hotel Intramuros, and I could watch the sunset and all the beautiful views of Manila from that sky deck, which was super cool for me. And it was also walking distance to the Bureau of Immigration, which was very important to me, especially as I was trying to work on my dual citizenship or some type of permanent residency. So that's why we chose a hotel first for the first, I think it was 2.5 weeks. So while we were there, our first week, basically, I promised my husband I was not going to do anything legal. I wasn't even going to work on our budget. I wasn't going to pull out all the spreadsheets and start figuring out what's our next move, and then even figure out our next Airbnb, because we didn't have anything decided. We hadn't even decided on anything yet. We just knew where we were going to stay for 2.5 weeks. So for me to promise the first week, I'm just reflecting on that. That's huge, because I'm already feeling anxiety because I didn't have something already planned after the first 2.5 weeks. What was I thinking? I wouldn't recommend that. I'm just gonna say, I wouldn't recommend that, but it just worked out for us. It honestly worked out for us. But I did keep my promise. I did not do anything. I didn't try to find the next set of accommodations until the second week we were there. And I truly did use the first week as a moment to breathe, a moment to stop researching, a moment to stop, again, updating all my spreadsheets. And I feel that's really necessary. It was maybe the easiest promise. I'm not sure how easy it was, but it was the best promise I could have ever made to my husband, and I'm glad I did. I used to be a marathon runner, so after my full right hip replacement back in 2016, I basically walk everywhere. I love walking. So to be located in a historical area of Manila, I absolutely loved. My husband and I approach things in a very different way. I think we're both open-minded, but how we register new things is different. I'm going to focus on me. My husband can share, if he ever wants to, how he feels. But for me, everything is new. And I might go to the same restaurant 50 million times, but it will still be, for me, a new experience, because that's how I want to view the world. I love it. I love seeing things that are just new and novel, and it just, it excites me. So even though I might walk the same path all around Intramuros, I didn't care. It just fascinated me the entire time. So getting past the first week, then we got sick. I was only sick for maybe 24 hours. My husband was sick, I would say, it went into weeks for him. So the second week, I did end up going to Intramuros, the Bureau of Immigration, in Intramuros, because that's when I started all of the legal matters. So I'm going to have a different video on the legal things that I did the first 6 months, and that started the second week I was there. But getting sick here is something you need to think about in regards to what are you going to do? And that was super scary for us to be sick the second week. And I just took care of my husband. So fortunately, he wasn't here by himself. So that's why when I recommended, I think in my last video, to bring your small medicine cabinet, super crucial. Okay, that was maybe the best thing that we could have done. And then the second week, I did get our Airbnb. That was set. So I knew where we were going to stay at least for, I would say, close to 2 months, at least, and give us some breathing room. Because if you're going to live a nomadic life initially, you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for anything. We didn't know where the police were located eventually. I knew where security was, and we stayed at a hotel, so they would be able to help us. We didn't know where the hospitals were, but eventually we found a clinic that was at the mall. So there are little things that you should really pay attention to, especially when you get there, for moments like getting sick or if there's an emergency. And we learned that the first 2 weeks being there. For me, it really was getting accustomed to the area and just enjoying being in the historical area. Despite my husband being sick and I had to take care of him, I am glad that I was able to take care of him because he was able to recover. And because that's scary. That really is scary when a loved one gets sick and you don't know what to do. But you figure it out fast, for sure. And that's when I started my Tagalog lessons, which I have a whole nother playlist on that. That level of embarrassment just continues to bring joy in my life, but I feel like I'm progressing. So anyway, once we left the hotel, we ended up going to an Airbnb, and it was in Makati. Oh my gosh, I loved Makati. I did not want to live in like BGC, or I think there's another one. I can't remember. Just because I would hear so much about all of those, like BGC, just heard so much about it. You see so many videos, and it's not like I didn't see as many about Makati, but I thought at least it was something that I might be familiar with. Like, I love Chicago, New York City, so big cities. So it gave me that vibe. Not that BGC wouldn't, but Makati was the place. And my husband found an Airbnb, 40th floor. We stayed at Grand Soho. Absolutely loved it. The view was amazing. I missed seeing a full sunset, but the view was still amazing. And we celebrated our first holiday there. Thanksgiving was in Intramuros, and then Christmas and New Year's Eve, loved it. If I did live in Manila right now, I could see myself going to Makati. I could see myself doing that. But I also know what I would do if I was by myself without my husband. I would maybe live 2 months in different cities around Manila to really find the place that was meant for me. But absolutely loved living in Makati. That's where we really started, like I mentioned, find those medical services. We found a place where we would go to. We found a dentist that we absolutely loved. Figured out prescriptions there, and we started working on, like for me, my ACRI card, and figuring out driver's license, all of that stuff. So it's interesting, within the first 2 months, 2 months of being in the Philippines, we had taken care of all of that, and we lived in 2 different places. And every time we found another way to make our life feel a little bit normalized, I think that's how I'll describe it, a little more normalized, it brought more comfort to us. And except for my husband, because he hated the city noise. Even though we were on the 40th floor, you could still hear traffic. To me, I never heard it. It's like I don't hear the dogs or the roosters anymore. I just loved being on the balcony and listening to the traffic and watching the construction. And there were 50 million things that I could tell you that I absolutely loved about it. And my husband, I think he could match my list with all the things he did not like about it. But he he doesn't like living in the city, and I've always wanted to live in a big city like that. Just never did. I will say one of the things for me that I missed, and I still haven't truly done, was watch a sunset over a beach. Because anytime you come to the Philippines, that's what you see. People always have these beautiful sunset pictures over a beach. I've yet to experience it. It is now August. I've yet to experience it. So when we were in Makati, our next thing, we decided, okay, we're gonna find a place. Oh, before we left Makati, one of the things we did not know existed, it's called a grease trap. We didn't know what that was. We didn't have any clue about that. But that is something we did learn about. So definitely check underneath your kitchen sink to see if that, wherever you're staying, has a grease trap, because we didn't have that in the United States. We had no idea what that was. I will say absolutely loved not having a washer and dryer, because somebody else did our laundry, and we would just get the text message saying, okay, your laundry's done, and we would go get it. Having our water delivered to us. So there are a lot of things that did happen that we had never been used to that I absolutely loved. But now that we're in a permanent spot, I like being back to being taking care of things and knowing. It feels more like home, which we'll eventually talk about. Anyway, our second Airbnb was at Azure Resorts. And if you read the reviews, they're up and down. If you go there to vacation for a period of time, or you're just going for the day, loved it. The wave pool was and we were there for almost 3 months. Yeah. A little over 3 months, I think. So it was nice to kind of feel settled. That's when I started feeling like I was starting to nest a little bit more, when we really couldn't, because we were staying in a condo and you didn't have a lot of space. Even though it was a 2-bedroom condo, my husband would turn one of the bedrooms into an office. It's still limited space. That's the other thing we started learning. Especially if you live in a condo, you don't have a lot of space, especially for storage. I was surprised how much more room we had in Makati with a one bedroom condo than we did with a 2-bedroom condo at Azure. But it gave us the beach vibes that we wanted. One thing we did learn about was addressing living conditions that had a cockroach. We never had that before, and I'm not saying that they didn't exist in the United States. I'm just saying that wherever we've lived, we never had to worry about that. And we had amazing hosts that took care of it. So I'm grateful for having our initial staying at an hotel, yes, but Airbnb, because then there are some expectations that come along with that compared to renting from a private resident. There's a lot of things that you have to be concerned about and hope that the landlord, when you're renting and it's not through Airbnb, are they going to actually follow through in the same way? We have been very fortunate that all of the people that we've associated with through Airbnb have been very accommodating and extremely attentive. But we read reviews like crazy reviews. So at Azure, we just continued the process of becoming more entrenched living in the Philippines. I mean, we slowly started accumulating more stuff, slowly started, I had a small little washer, collapsible washer that I used, just because I know we could have had somebody do our own laundry, but I like to do our laundry. It just gave me a feeling of being at home. being able to cook our own meals. It just was nice once we started being in an Airbnb, and we started becoming familiar with what it's like to go grocery shopping, what it's like to get certain needs met wherever we were living. You know, the one thing about living in Metro Manila, we loved having Grab taxis available, because where we live now, they don't exist. So if I had to pick one thing about where we're staying now, is I wish there was at least a Grab, because we don't have a car, and we don't plan on having a car for at least I would say 2 or 3 years. But, and the other thing about living in Metro Manila that I loved, because Azure Resorts is located in Parañaque, so it's still part of Metro Manila, is just being around all of the stuff. I mean, I could just take a Grab and then go someplace. There's just lots of activity, and I'm a person who's all for it. My husband is not. So our next move after that was, we just decided, because we kept becoming more of, we started nesting more. I guess that's how I'm going to describe it. While we were at Azure Resorts, because we were there for about 3 months, we started nesting more and started realizing, okay, either we're going to do a long-term rental someplace, or we're going through Airbnb. Initially, it was through Airbnb, and just stay there for a long period of time. That was our initial thought. And I can do a video about how we felt we were scammed, or the attempt to scam us was in the works, and how and what we did to avoid it. But that is maybe one of the biggest things that I would be concerned about, was the moment of feeling like, who do you trust? Okay, we're making the decision to either rent through Airbnb. We couldn't find anything, by the way. So then we came across somebody that offered us the opportunity to rent a long-term 6-month to a 1-year stay. And maybe I might do a video about that and share that. That might be my next video. Because we really didn't feel safe, and it did put a lot of things into question about what the heck are we doing here, and how do you know for sure? And it's not like it wouldn't happen in the United States, because it would, and it has. But when you're in another country and it happens, and you're not quite sure who to turn to, and the only people that we had to rely on, it was just us. It's just, my husband could talk to me and I could talk to my husband, but we didn't know any more than anybody else, and we didn't know who to trust to ask. So maybe I will do a video about that, just because I think it is important to talk about what we did to avoid being scammed, because we felt like we were. Anyway, at the end of our last stay, which was the Airbnb at Azure Resorts, which we did enjoy, we really did enjoy, and we were there for 3 months. So to have that and just watch, and then lead in from the winter season into the summer season to be there, and watch the changing of the crowd. I mean, I just loved all that. We were ready to find a permanent residence, and eventually we started researching where. Thought about Angeles City, that's where I was born, or at least near Angeles, and Subic Bay was a consideration. And then started looking for the coolest places in the Philippines. And Lipa is the third coolest place in the Philippines. and started researching that, looked into Airbnbs. Of course, that did not work out, but it did work out eventually because we did find a landlord that the couple, super nice. We love the neighbors, love the neighborhood, the barangay, love living here, you know, and super excited because we are now officially signed a contract for over a year. It is a little over a year, and could not be happier. Could not be happier. It's just to be able to then furnish a home and feel like, even though we're renting, that's okay. I've never owned a home. My husband's never owned a home. We've always been renters, and everyone in my family has always owned homes. I'm the only person in my family that rents, but I feel like because I grew up as an Air Force brat, we were always on the move every, 4 years or so? I'm ready to always move. I'm ready to always find the next adventure. And now I don't necessarily have to do that with my home. I do that with every time I go out for a walk or ride my bike or whatever. I can get all of the adventure exploring that I want just being here in one spot. However, we are renters, and we do want to build a home in the Philippines, but that won't be for another 3 to 5 years. So we kind of have certain goals that are on our radar, but we definitely are glad that the decisions that we made, I'm starting to ramble, sorry. The decisions that we made to finally become full-time renters, it did take a while for us to get to this point, but we are officially here. We're super excited. Sorry about the rambling because I started thinking about other things. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, checking in, and I will catch you later. Bye.